July 3, 1947. An unidentified flying object crashed near Roswell in southeastern New Mexico. At that time, a farmer named William Roswell discovered the remains of the aircraft, and on July 7, the U.S. Army Air Corps collected the wreckage. The U.S. Army Air Corps first announced that it had captured a flying saucer, but 24 hours later issued a correction stating that it was a meteorological instrument. The Roswell case, which ended in such a happening, came to the public's attention once again as the testimonies of eyewitnesses came out one by one. According to them, the objects recovered at the time were circular UFO, wreckage, and even alien corpses. In particular, a nurse named Matilda from the U.S. Army Air Corps made headlines once again by publishing a book about her conversations with the alien as she approached her death decades later. It is true that the truth of the Roswell case cannot be judged hastily. It is not enough to dismiss it as a conspiracy theory. There are a lot of vivid data related to it. Let's take the opportunity to check the facts of the Roswell case from a Buddhist point of view. Matilda's claims that she communicated telepathically with the aliens are summarized as follows. 1. There are countless alien planets in the universe, and they are divided into the Old Empire and the New Empire. The Old Empire is an evil dark force, and after losing the war against the New Empire, it was scattered across alien planets in the universe. However, it still has a certain amount of power, and it still exerts a strong influence on Earth. 2. The Old Empire made the Earth a prison planet, populated terrible souls, and installed electronic screen network around the Earth to prevent human souls from leaving the Earth. The souls caught in the electronic screen network received a strong electric shock, causing the memories of their previous lives to be erased. In addition, they have been induced to reincarnate as humans again by automatically inputting the command "Go back to your home." There are only 2 people in the human history who managed to escape the electronic screen network, Siddhartha and Lao Tzu. 3. Earth's creatures are made and managed by one of the companies established by the Old Empire. The company designed and disseminated various living species, and the survival of the fittest in the ecosystem is just one of the programs they designed. Are Matilda's claims true? If we go back a few hundred years in human history, the international situation is truly similar to the animal kingdom. It is natural for a powerful country to invade, rob, and colonize weaker countries. But what happened in modern times? After World War II, the concept of colonization was regarded barbaric. Ideas such as human rights, philanthropy, and cosmopolitanism became universal, and invasion-oriented imperialism came to an end. Of course, there is still the policy of prioritizing one country's own interests, but even so, one country cannot have its own way. In the next 100 years or so, mankind will make a much more mature civilization than now. Then, what about the aliens who transcended space and time to weave the universe into a single civilization? It might be a civilization that is several or tens of millions of years more advanced than that of mankind. Some might say that the development of science and technology does not mean that the mind has matured, but there is one thing overlooked in that argument. As intelligence and reason developed, evil emotions are weakened. If you have the intelligence that approaches the essence of life, and the secrets of space and time, you will understand how childish and meaningless it is to dominate others and cause pains. In such state, you don't have the desire. Of course, the lust for dominance may still remain in the earliest civilization, where interplanetary movement is possible. If such an alien planet's UFO comes to Earth, it may be somewhat dangerous. However, in a civilization more advanced than that, the elements of dominance almost disappear. You can see how absurd it is to assume that aliens on the same level as Jesus invade Earth and enslave people. Therefore, the Star War divided into the old and new empires in Matilda's accounts has a false assumption. The old empire might be a civilization that appears briefly in the transition period, when interplanetary movement becomes possible. If so, its science and technology cannot stand up to the new empire. Besides, such a civilization as the new empire would have no reason to wage war against the barbaric old empire. And the idea of the electronic screen network lacks basic scientific knowledge or philosophical base. Of course, the passage in which the two people, Siddhartha and Lao Tzu, passed through the electronic screen network can be viewed positively. Even at this time, rather than limiting it to two people, it would be more reasonable to accept it as meaning that Buddhism and Taoism, represented by Siddhartha and Lao Tzu, hold the key to liberty. The claim of extraterrestrial souls seems deliberately tailored to Western thinking. After death, the boundary of the Earth's sphere disappears, and the entire universe is connected as one. If you have high spiritual level, you can go anywhere freely. However, most souls do not have the ability to do so, and they simply reincarnate back to Earth. So, you do not need to install the electronic screen network to create a prison planet on purpose. Human souls are automatically filtered out by their spiritual level. When the spiritual energy that constitutes the soul is about to disperse, it attempts to reincarnate for survival without the command to go back to your home. And when you are reincarnated, the memories of the previous life are automatically erased in order to create a new one. This is a natural phenomenon, not artificially created by someone applying an electric shock. And memories are not completely erased. They are only stored in the subconscious for a while. There is no biologically theoretical basis about saying that aliens designed and distributed species on Earth. It seems to be intended to convince those familiar with Christian theory of creation. It is also absurd that the flying saucer belonging to the domain, which is a highly developed civilization, was struck by lightning and crashed. It does not make sense to leave the remain. If it is true that a UFO crashed into Roswell at that time, it might actually belong to the old empire. The meticulous US military might feel threatened and killed the alien with an electric shock. Anyway, the analysis so far was conducted under the assumption that the stories in the alien interview are true. In a nutshell, it looks like a Star Wars movie or science fiction novel. It seems to be convincing that Buddhism and Taoism might be ways to escape from the prison planet. Of course, if this part is accurately expressed, it should be called Buddhist Buddhism and Dangon's teaching. In short, when civilized people enter a barbaric society, it look up to them like a god. Likewise, if highly civilized aliens visit Earth, we can see it from the same perspective. But that's just for the general public? As for those having the spiritually high level, encountering any alien civilization will not change anything. This is because these aliens are also under the supremacy of spiritual perfection, and in order to become a Buddha, any kind of intelligent being must practice. The truth is always equal regardless of the development of civilization and the differences of race.